I never could have predicted that one moment would change my life forever. It had started as just another ordinary day, but something unexpected awaited me on the other side of that door. The moment I noticed it was slightly ajar, a feeling stirred inside me, a quiet urge to turn back, to ignore whatever lay beyond. But I didn't, and that decision altered everything. The house was quiet. George was at work, and I had been enjoying the solitude, but then I heard faint noises from upstairs. Elliot was in his room. At first, I thought nothing of it, just the sound of a young man lost in his own world. Maybe he was watching a movie or listening to music. Still, I thought I'd check in, maybe bring him a coffee and have a little conversation. As I climbed the stairs, the faint noises grew clearer. When I reached his door, I hesitated. It was slightly open, the soft glow of his laptop illuminating his face. He was completely absorbed in whatever was on the screen. I was about to call his name, but as I stepped forward, my angle shifted, and suddenly I saw something that made my breath hitch. Elliot noticed me at the same time, his eyes widening in surprise. In an instant, he scrambled to adjust himself, lowering the volume on his laptop, his face flushing with embarrassment. "I'm sorry," he stammered, looking away. I felt my own cheeks grow warm. "No, I should be the one apologizing," I said quickly. I should have knocked. An awkward silence filled the space between us. We had lived under the same roof for years, but this was the first time an invisible barrier had appeared between us, a tension neither of us knew how to break. "I'll, go start dinner," I said, stepping back toward the stairs. Elliot nodded but said nothing. That evening, the silence continued. We sat at the dinner table, avoiding each other's gaze. The only sound was a quiet clinking of silverware against plates. The air felt heavy, filled with words neither of us could find the courage to say. Days passed, and though everything on the surface seemed normal, something had changed. It lingered in the way we avoided eye contact, the way conversations trailed off too soon. It wasn't until one quiet afternoon that Elliot finally spoke. "Darlene, about the other day," he started hesitantly. I feel really embarrassed. I never meant for you to see. I didn't want things to be weird between us." I exhaled, feeling the weight of his words. "Oh, Elliot," I said, offering a small smile. "Trust me, I've had my share of embarrassing moments too." To ease the tension, I shared a few light-hearted stories from my past, moments that had once made me want to disappear but had become funny memories over time. Slowly, Elliot's nervousness faded, replaced by laughter and relief. And just like that, the weight between us lifted. From that day on, we found a new kind of understanding. It wasn't the moment itself that defined our relationship. It was how we chose to move past it, to learn and grow from it. Life was full of awkward, unexpected moments, but in the end, it was how we handled them that truly mattered. I never realized how things had escalated so quickly, but one thing was certain. There was no turning back now. And then Elliot came home like that. He was drunk. The noise from the door, the things he knocked over, it was enough to wake George. But I knew how deeply George slept, so without hesitation, I stepped out of my room. I didn't even have time to fix my clothes properly before I was standing right in front of Elliot. His eyes were slightly unfocused, a soft, almost childlike smile curving his lips. "Darlene, are you real?" he murmured, his words slurred but carrying an undeniable sincerity. I took a deep breath, steadying myself, and reached for his arm. "Elliot, come on, you can't go upstairs like this. We have to be quiet." But his gaze was fixed on me, intense, searching. He smiled, his eyes drifting slowly over my face. "You're beautiful," he whispered. "Have you always been this way, or did I just never notice?" For a moment, I froze. A warmth spread through me, unexpected, but I quickly pulled myself together. "Elliot, that's enough," I said gently. "Come to the kitchen. I'll make you some coffee." I guided him carefully, wanted to sober him up, but the way he looked at me, the way his words lingered, it stirred something inside me, something I wasn't sure I was ready to acknowledge. Elliot sat down while I prepared the coffee, but before I could hand him the cup, it slipped from his fingers, spilling across the counter. "Ah," Elliot, you need to be more careful, I whispered, quickly wiping it up. Elliot only smiled. Were you always this sweet? I hurriedly cleaned up, aware that we couldn't stay here much longer. George was asleep upstairs, and with Elliot in this state, we couldn't risk any more noise. All right, we're going upstairs, but you have to be quiet, I warned, slipping my arm around us to steady him. As we reached his room, his movements were clumsier. He needed a change, but he was too out of it to manage on his own. I hesitated, debating whether to turn away. But then I saw him struggle with his shirt, and instinct took over. I reached for the buttons, my fingers grazing the fabric. Elliot's breathing slowed. The air between us changed, heavy, charged. I knew exactly what I was doing, and yet, at the same time, I had no idea. Elliot's hands fell to his sides as he locked eyes with me. That's when I noticed my own breath had quickened. I'm not playing this game anymore, Darlene, he said softly, but there was certainty in his voice. I stared at him, heart pounding. Elliot! This isn't right, I whispered, but my voice wavered. He gave a small, knowing smile. We passed the point of deciding what's right a long time ago. Stop lying to yourself. He stepped closer, so close I could feel his breath against my skin. His fingers traced my cheek, a gentle, lingering touch. I wanted to look away, to resist, but I couldn't, because deep down I knew he was right. Then his lips met mine. In that instant, the tension, the silence, the questions, all of it disappeared. Everything we had been holding back surfaced, raw and undeniable. I trembled but didn't pull away, and when I saw the determination in his eyes, I knew there was nothing left to hide. I took a deep breath, slowly sliding the straps of my clothing off my shoulders. You're right, Elliot, I whispered. Let's stop pretending. The distance between us disappeared, the weight of unspoken words dissolving into the night. Lying back, my heart raced, but there was no fear, no hesitation. Elliot hovered over me for a moment, studying my face, then smiled reassuringly. Don't be afraid, he said, his voice warm. Everything is exactly how it should be. A shiver ran through me, not of fear, but anticipation. I had been waiting for this moment, longer than I had admitted to myself. But still, I couldn't stop the quiet words from escaping my lips. Elliot, I'm a little scared. I confessed. He smiled, ignoring my hesitation, as if he had known all along. Maybe it was because he was drunk. Maybe it was because deep down I wanted him to. He leaned in close, his lips brushing my ear. George mustn't wake up. I understood what he meant. Silence was necessary. And yet, something inside me surged, a feeling I could no longer suppress. Elliot's gaze locked onto mine, and I felt completely seen. I couldn't fight it anymore. I closed my eyes, my body trembling with the weight of everything unspoken, the intensity of the moment. As I clutched the sheets, I bit my lip to keep from making a sound. Elliot was lost in the moment, unaware of anything else. And for the first time, I allowed myself to feel everything. Heat spread through me, overwhelming and consuming. Elliot's breath was ragged, his body exhausted. You're flushed, I murmured. We need to stop. He nodded, but even as he said, okay, he lingered, as if he didn't want to let go. Another wave crashed over me, and I stopped caring about anything beyond this moment. I wasn't myself anymore. I was something more, something deeper. I don't care, I whispered, eyes closed. Whatever you want, Elliot. And in that moment, I think he knew. He understood me better than I understood myself. Finally, I helped him onto the bed, covering him up gently. Then, locking his door behind me, I stepped into the bathroom. I needed a moment, a quiet shower to wash away the whirlwind of emotions. I didn't know what would happen next. But strangely, by the time I stepped out, my mind was clearer. I couldn't even be mad at myself. My body felt as calm as my thoughts. Dressed in silence, I walked to my bed and slipped under the covers as if nothing had happened. But deep down I knew this wasn't just a fleeting moment. It was the beginning of something much bigger. And it wasn't going to stay simple. This story isn't over yet. Make sure to follow and subscribe. You won't want to miss what happens next. Turn on notifications and leave a comment. Your support means everything. And if you've made it this far, thank you for listening.